And that's going to take us into the second to last game of the season. This is the Geelong Cats taking on a bit of a Richmond team that seems like they're playing without their heart and soul without Dusty. At least he was able to make it out of the hospital. He's good. He's home. And so he's recovering. So that's great news. And it looks like he should be on track to be back next season, which, of course, is only good for the game. Whether you hate the Richmond Tigers or love them, the game is better when Dusty is on that pitch. But in this one, we have the Cats where there is a blip for the Richmond blip of life for the Richmond Tigers in the first term where they took the lead, but then that did not last long. This wasn't a flashy game necessarily by the Geelong Cats, but this is one where they gritted out a bit of a game and they ended up winning by a good margin of 38. And they keep their spot just near the top of the ladder. They're the 2 team right now, so they continue their nice stretch of games right now, where they've just been winning, and they haven't been winning great, but they've been winning, and they've been looking pretty solid in doing so. And this one, yeah, Tom Hawkins, he had 4 goals in this, and it seemed almost like Richmond was in a, would you be able to call it maybe a bit of a hangover from their game from last round. It looked like, man, they put in a lot of energy for that big win and the 300th game for Jack. But that might have taken it out of them, and that might have really been their last, I guess, big push of the season and at the finals. Because they just looked like it was a night and day difference between the team we saw last round and the team we saw this one. And so right now, Geelong has a really good shot at actually finishing at top of the ladder. If you want to take a look at the last number of games for them, with them in Brisbane, because right now they got games against North Melbourne, which of course is not a guaranteed win anymore, but it's a game where they should win. A GWS game where it's not a guaranteed win, but it's another game where they should win. You can say that for St. Kilda, and then you have a tough matchup at the last round of the season with the Melbourne Demons, and so that might just really make or break that team, whether they're going to be in one or just another spot in the 4. And then if you look at their competition right now, the current number 1 team, the Doggies, is that the Bulldogs have Adelaide, Essendon, Hawthorn, and Port Adelaide. So it looks like the Doggies should be in the driver's seat for 1. They control their own destiny, obviously, but if they have a bit of a slip up, I think the Cats have a good spot actually finishing number 1.
Cats definitely have a very good shot at doing that again. The biggest thing for them is just continue to win. But I actually heard this really interesting statistic while I was watching a show called First Crack on Fox Footy. In the last 10 years, only one team that has finished minor premiers or regular or the home and away champions,
Mm-hmm.
one has won the flag.
Hmm.
One in the last 10 years. Eight of the last 10 has been second or third.
And maybe Geelong, never mind. Don't win. Don't win.
Exactly. Yep. It was a very
Jeez.
interesting stat that Lee Montagna
Huh.
brought up, and it did, and they actually discussed it a little bit. They go, do you almost feel like being second and third, and they kind of debated about why that is, and I agreed with what they said is that first game is a lot more competitive because you're facing your next closest opponent, where one plays 4, who's the last person to get into the double chance situation, which should mean one should win because of positioning in the ladder and so on and so forth. But sometimes that actually can be a curse. So we will definitely have to see. But I thought that was a very, very
Yeah.
relevant stat there, especially where they're sitting at second right now, is they're sitting in the pardon the pun here, the catbird seat.
That's kind of funny, man. That's really interesting here. And I mean, with the Richmond Tigers, what are you putting to maybe saying that maybe their game last round is kind of their last like full effort of a game, and how are their finals chances looking? How's their outlook in your opinion?
Well, their thing, the one thing Richmond's got to hang their hat on a little bit is if you look at it, I know they don't have Dusty, but they go into these last 4 games, and really the GWS game in round 22 is really the only one you can sit here and go, you kind of have to be worried. Frio, I think the loss of Fife and Walters really, really hits them hard. I think Richmond, yes, they don't always travel very well to Western Australia, but I think Richmond would get a tick from most people in that game. Yes, you're playing a North team that's tough and physical, but Richmond, again, their style sometimes can suffocate teams. You'd think they'd come out, you'd think they would be favorites in that. GWS, I think, is a coin toss. I think it's what GWS team shows up. Is it the GWS team that plays really, really well, or is it the GWS team that has lapses? We'll have to see. And last game of the season is against Hawthorn, which could be absolutely massive. Hawthorn could go into that game knowing they win and they're in. We'll have to see. Again,
Mm-hmm.
it's a 4 game stretch that you would sit here and go 3 games your favor, one's a coin toss that gives you a good shot of making the finals, but you almost have to win. You have to win 3 of these 4. And Frio really is the only one you could be tiny bit terrified because it is over an Optus Stadium. But other than that, North Melbourne, Hawthorn, you should win those. Again, as we've discussed, they've been a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not an easy last 4 games for Richmond, but you would think they're favorites in at least 3 of those 4, if not all 4, even depending on what GWS's form is going into that round 22 matchup.